All right, so my name is Michael Suzuki, and I'm going to be presenting my slides slide by slide. So the very first slide I have here is the math learning progressions for all of math. And this is very important. Here we can see how there are building blocks of math, what kind of concepts we're learning in each grade level, and which concepts are being learned across grade levels. So maybe some examples I have are like in kindergarten, where we're learning counting and cardinality, but that's just for that grade level. In grades 3 through 5, we're learning numbers and operations. And then across grade levels, we're learning about geometry, measurements, and data. And all of these are building blocks for the next grade level, so students can think about how to solve problems based on the previous knowledge that they have. Okay, so then we also have specifically learning progressions for fractions. So in grade 3, we're learning about the meaning of a fraction, fractions on the number line, equivalent fractions, and comparing fractions. In grade 4, we add on adding and subtracting fractions, multiplying a fraction by a whole number, and decimal fractions. In grade 5, we're learning some of the same stuff, just some more advanced concepts of that. Okay, now in these next slides, it gets more specific. There are hyperlinked videos kind of explaining how to do these math problems, so I'll just kind of explain these very quickly. We want to begin with the meaning of a unit fraction. This is the building block of fractions, just like in whole numbers. 1 is the building block of whole numbers. 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. For all whole numbers, they can all be kind of comprised of this basic building block of 1. Same with fractions. If you have 3/10, the unit fraction for that is going to be 1/10. 1/10 plus 1/10 plus 1/10 is 3/10. So for comparing fractions, the main idea here is you want to get the same denominator. So if you want to multiply by 1. So if you're comparing maybe 1/10 to maybe 2/5, you want to multiply by 2 over 2, so you end up with the same denominator, and then you can just compare the numerators. All right, so going on, you have adding fractions. This is kind of the same idea. You want to be able to get the same denominator by multiplying by 1, so you can just add across the numerators horizontally. All right, next we have multiplying fractions, and this is just an easy multiplying straight across. You want to multiply the numerator straight across and multiplying the denominator straight across, and you'll be able to arrive at the answer. All right, and then we understand that multiplying fractions is preliminary to dividing fractions, because in order to divide fractions, we need to learn how to multiply fractions. For example, if we are dividing 3/4 by 1/6, this is going to end up being 3/4 times 6 over 1. So before we even begin dividing fractions, students need to master multiplying fractions. Okay, next we have some visual models. So in grade 3, we can see that there are visual representations of 6, and we're multiplying those, adding those. And then in grades 4 and 5, we move on to the fractional components, learning how to add those, multiply those by whole numbers as well. And then in grade 5, we are adding decimal points and visualizing those decimals as fractions. Going on, for the next visual model learning progression, we can see that we're dealing with number lines and how whole numbers, fractions, and decimals correspond to specific points in the number line. Lastly, we can see that there are a lot of visual models representing groups, rectangles, demonstrating and finding the area. And in these problems, we want to make sure that we're multiplying the length by the width and shading in colors to find the right answer. So yeah, I would say in conclusion, In grades 3 to 5, we are learning fractions, but it goes way beyond that. We are learning how to use fractions in the real world, applying it to real world concepts, so we can use them effectively, tangibly in everyday life, and apply it to our lives. And ultimately, we're going to need these skills in the future to have great jobs, and we want to inspire our students and model for our students great thinking patterns and develop these thinking patterns right now, develop a foundation so that they'll have it for the rest of their lives and in their career. Thank you.